Hello pumpkins! Welcome to another reaction video. Today is kind of special because I actually got my first recommendation to react to something, so I am so excited. I actually got the recommendation from one of my followers on Twitch. I know he's also here on YouTube, Rexalian 2000. We are gonna do it. I'm hyped. We are gonna be reacting to overly Sarcastic Productions. You can already see the one I picked in the corner. If you have any of their videos in particular you would like me to react to, please let me know, or any other videos. I'm glad to do it. But before we get started, please get yourself a drink. You deserve it. You should stay hydrated and take care of yourself. Also like and subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me. If we are at some point capable of reaching 1,000 subscribers, I actually had my friend promise me that we would be able to actually give him a makeover. The guy that you see in the picture right now, he's willing to let us give him an entire makeover. And you can recommend any, characters you would like him to actually, cosplay or whatever. The comment with like the most likes across all videos will actually get to, we'll actually use that one to put him into a costume. I'm hyped. I kind of want to see him as like either Poseidon or Polites or something. But from my epic people, brain crash. Anyway, so please like and subscribe. I guess we just get into it. I don't actually know overly Sarcastic Productions yet. I did subscribe, so you can find them in my subscribers list, I think. But we'll be reacting to the classics summarized, the Odyssey. I have miscellaneous myths, Cadmus, because I felt like these would probably fit best. So without further ado, we get into it.
So, the Odyssey, or as I like to identify it, Troy Story 2, is something of a sequel to the Iliad, chronicling the
Toy Story 2 sounds like Toy Story 2. I love that.
These happily ever afters, or otherwise, of our favorite Greek heroes. But really, what it's mostly about is how much the universe hates Odysseus and wants him to suffer for as long as humanly possible. Seriously.
That man had it rough for like so long, like 20 years? It's horrible.
In the 10 years it takes him to get from Troy to Ithaca, this guy gets put through more crap than a 20-pound bag of industrial-strength Huggies sized for incontinent bulls. So the Odyssey begins with our hero, who's been stranded on an island for 7 years with no company other than a gorgeous, lonely, immortal goddess by the name of Calypso. Terrible, right? Well, actually, it does kinda suck for him, because what he wants more than anything is to get back home to Ithaca, specifically back to his lovely wife Penelope and his now adult son Telemachus, who...
Aww. I didn't know it actually started with Calypso. That actually surprises me. I thought, because like, basically the only knowledge I have of the Odyssey is from Epic the Musical. So I actually felt like Calypso was one of the last pieces of the Odyssey, but guess not. That surprises me.
Who Odysseus hasn't seen since he was a baby. And in fact, the story initially focuses on these two. See, since almost everyone thinks Odysseus is dead, Penelope is now widely considered to be Ithaca's most eligible bachelorette, and as a result she's got more than 100 potential suitors queuing up in her castle demanding that she pick one of them to marry her and become the new king. Her son Telemachus is none too pleased about the suitors throwing a never-ending frat party in his house. Now by the time our story begins, most of the gods have decided that poor
I mean, to be honest, imagine you're at home, your mom just has this ridiculous amount of like suitors all just piled up to at her, and you have to hear them talk about it and stuff, and just that would suck. That would suck. You would not have a moment of peace.
Odysseus has suffered enough at this point, so Athena disguises herself as a dude, drops down into Ithaca, and then tells Telemachus, "Hey, your dad's alive. Maybe you should go try and find out where he is." So Telemachus, who's a pretty smart kid, immediately figures out that this dude is actually a god, and thus takes her at her word. But before he leaves, Telemachus tries...
How did he figure that out? He was like, listen, this guy, he has the god smell. How did he figure that out? Either Athena is really bad in disguises, or Telemachus is just kind of a brilliant guy.
And fails to kick the suitors out of his house. And they're like, ooh, is widow baby Telemachus gonna fight us? And Telemachus is like, shut up, I'm gonna find my dad and he's gonna beat you up. So Telemachus...
They're running away crying. Oh, that was beautiful. Like, they're crying and being like, my dad's gonna beat you up. That's...
Secretly assembles a small, loyal crew, acquires a ship, and sets off in search of news. The first place he goes is Pylos, home to King Nestor. So Telemachus is like, hey, do you have any idea where my father is? And Nestor's like, well, let me think back to when I last saw him. Oh right, it was 9 years ago, during the Trojan War. Agamemnon and Menelaus were arguing, which had split the army down the middle, so Odysseus, Diomedes, Menelaus, and I took our armies and left. Although Odysseus did turn back to head off Agamemnon, and that's the last time I saw him. I don't know what happened after that, though. Maybe you should go talk
He just made a circle and, like, turned back.
to Menelaus, see what he has to say about the matter. So Telemachus goes off to Sparta and meets with Menelaus and Helen, now happily remarried, and Telemachus is like, yeah, can you tell me where my dad is? And Menelaus is like, first let me tell you my story! Okay, so I was...
Do you know, like, those people that whenever you are, like, having trouble or whatever, or you're having a rough time, and you go to them and you tell them, like, hey, I'm having a rough time, I really want to talk about it, and they're immediately like, listen, I'm having a rough time. Just, like, overtake the conversation, and you're not even able to actually rent your rough time or your experience. That's just what Telemachus is just experiencing. He's getting all these, like, extra stories, or, like, not even info that he needs to have continuously. Oh, I would go mad. I'm also someone who does not talk to the point, but I would go mad.
marooned on this tiny island off the coast of Egypt, right? When this goddess shows up, and she's like, hey, you should talk to my dad, Proteus. He'll tell you how to get out of here. So I went off and tackled the guy, but he starts shape-shifting, right? But he can't shake me that easily. So we got...
Okay, this guy is really going off track. Like, really, really going off track. This guy is doing it better than I can.
Tired of that pretty quick, and he was like, screw it, what do you want? And I was like, do your thing, oh god of telling me stuff. And he's like, fine, you're stranded here because you forgot to sacrifice to Zeus before you left. Also, Ajax the Lesser drowned, Agamemnon's dead, and Odysseus is stranded on Calypso's island. And Telemachus is like, that's literally all I needed to hear.
Okay, so it was kind of... That whole story wasn't relevant. He could have literally just said, like, hey, your dad's at Calypso's island. I know, because, like, a guy that's a serpent, that's a god, actually told me. You know, it could have been that easy. I literally have school after this. I'm, like, making a reaction video, and then I have school in about an hour. But I thought, why not make a video? Because, you know, all of the trains stopped working, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be home, I guess, so I have time. It's like, that's literally all I needed to hear, yes.
But back in Ithaca, the suitors have learned that Telemachus left to find news of Odysseus, and they find this very offensive for some reason, so they start plotting to kill him as soon as he gets back. Man, Penelope sure knows how to pick him. Now, on Zeus's order...
Damn, you can't... why would you go find your dad? We could have been your dad. All of us. Why is that offensive? Of course you're gonna go look for your father. I didn't pick anyone, they just showed up.
Calypso finally lets Odysseus go, so he heads off homeward on a raft. But Poseidon, who's holding a grudge against him for reasons that'll be explained later, notices that he's trying to escape and whips up a huge storm in an effort to drown him. But Odysseus is far too badass to let a little thing like drowning get him down, and he's doing pretty well for himself when yet another goddess shows up, gives him a magic anti-drowning scarf, and then vanishes. And Odysseus is like, huh, why would I need this when I have a
anti-drowning scarf. That's where we got floaties from, I bet you. Like, the goddess was getting too tired from having to give out the anti-drowning scarf all the time, so she just invented floaties.
Perfectly serviceable raft. Okay then. So Odysseus swims all the way to nearby Phaeacia, drags himself into the forest, and passes out. So Athena, always looking out for Odysseus, zips over to the city and tells the princess Nausicaa, hey, you should go down to the forest. And she's like, great idea. So she heads over to the forest and finds Odysseus, just like Athena planned. So Nausicaa brings him back to her parents, the king and queen, and Odysseus tells them the story of how he came to be stranded on Calypso's island. So it's just after the Greeks have sacked Troy, and Odysseus advises the others to quit while...
Is this just people telling other people their life stories, like, all of the time? Nobody's in a rush. These were the original Storytime YouTubers.
They're ahead and sail back to Greece. But of course they don't listen to him, and by next morning they're overrun by a retaliatory force. Odysseus and some of the others take the ships to escape, but Zeus is angry at the Greeks for their poor sportsmanship and sends a huge storm to blow them off course. Odysseus and his crew are swept far out to sea, and that's when the weird stuff starts happening. So first, they wash up...
I thought aliens, because you saw the UFO. Wait, but now there's the Lotus Eaters? Okay, this confuses me. Also, by the way, for y'all who, like, actually listen to the PompyPie podcast, we will be covering, I think, the Odyssey soon. Because my friend actually finally was able to get a book that has it written down properly. So we'll be actually able to cover it. Great. I'm great at language.
But the land of the lotus eaters, which is populated by these really mellow dudes who eat lotuses. Anyone who eats a lotus mellows out and wants to stay there forever, so of course most of his shipmates eat them, and Odysseus has to drag his idiot crew back to the ships by force. So they set out again, only to wash up on the island of the Cyclopses, where they see a nice looking cave surrounded by delicious looking flocks of sheep. Unfortunately,
Oh no, wait, he's telling this. Right? I'm stupid. Don't mind me. He's telling how he ended up there. Now I get it.
the cave is home to a large, hungry Cyclops by the name of Polyphemus, who seals them in with an enormous rock, kills 2 of the crew, and then falls asleep. Since they can't kill him without trapping themselves in the cave, they bide their time until the next night, when Odysseus gets Polyphemus drunk, introduces himself as nobody, and then when Polyphemus passes out, they take a large wooden stake and stab out his eye. So Polyphemus is like,
"Ah, help! Nobody blinded me!"
and all his Cyclops friends are like,
Yeah, you're hilarious. Polyphemus, is nobody stealing your flocks too?
So Polyphemus opens the cave to check, and Odysseus and remaining crew bolt for the ships. Then Odysseus, remember, the wisest of the group,
I mean, Polyphemus may have been blind, but if this other Cyclops didn't even see the dude sneaking out on the corner, they might be blinder.
Greeks, takes it into his head to taunt the Cyclops. So he's like, hey, guess what, dumbass? My name's not nobody. It's Odysseus. And Polyphemus is like,
Dad, Odysseus gouged out my eye.
So funny story. All Cyclopses are children of Poseidon. So
We had Telemachus running for his dad crying. Now we have Polyphemus crying for his dad the same way.
Poseidon hears about this and he's like, oh, really? Time for some disproportionate retribution. So after that point, he starts trying to make Odysseus' journey home just as difficult as godly possible. So after that little adventure, they land on the Aeolian island, where the king very nicely gives them a magic leather pouch full of wind to speed them on their way home. But we can't give Odysseus a break just yet. They're maybe 10 feet off the coast of Ithaca when his idiot crew decides that the magic bag has gold in it and busts it open. The resulting hurricane sweeps them off.
I feel like in the actual Odyssey, because Odysseus is meant to be this like super smart guy, superior in every way and stuff. I feel like the crew is just made to be extra dumb just so he can shine. Like, I feel like he has to get a better rep. So the crew is just so stupid to make him look smarter. I don't know why. That's what I feel like.
All the way back to the Aeolian island. So Odysseus is like, hey, got another one of those magic wind bags? But the king's like, not for you, dude. You've got to be super cursed to have that bad luck. Get off my island. So next they arrive on the Lastrygonian island, populated entirely by cannibal giants. When they start eating the majority of Odysseus' crew, Odysseus and the other survivors get out of there as fast as humanly possible. Next on this mythological island world tour, they come to the Aeaean island, where Circe, the daughter of Helios, lives. Circe is a sorceress, and some wicked hankering for bacon makes her take it into her head to turn Odysseus' rapidly dwindling crew into pigs. Odysseus learns of their tragic swinification and resolves to rescue them. So Hermes gives Odysseus some
To be honest, bacon is good. I don't know if I would turn humans into pigs for the purpose, but you know.
Anti-magic drugs so that Circe won't be able to enchant him. You know, for someone who the gods supposedly hate, Odysseus sure does seem to get a lot of help from them. So Circe's like, here, have some enchanted booze. And Odysseus is like, awesome. Drinks it, fails to turn.
I feel like it's like a split. You have either the gods who want to help him or the gods who just fucking hate his guts and just want him to get lost. It's one or the other. He can't have like a middle ground. Anyways, you can't really have one without the other, I think. Because the gods have inner conflict as well. Of course, it's gonna be split.
And Odysseus is like, awesome. Drinks it, fails to turn into a pig, and then draws a sword on her. So she's like, wait, I'm a mage, I have...
Fails to turn into a pig? How did he fail that? He's just built different. He's not turning into anything. No spells are... You're not gonna be able to cast any spells on this man. He's special. He's just... Like I said, he's just different.
2 hit points! And he's like, then I suggest you turn them back before I have to whittle that number down to 0. So she does, and then they all chill.
I love the little, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons reference, I think. Of like, oh, I only have 2 hit points, don't hurt me. That's funny as fuck.
And then they all chillax on the island for like a year. So then Odysseus is like, yeah, we should probably be getting back. And Circe's like, well, fine with me, but first you gotta go talk to Tiresias. I mean,
Didn't they think it was a day? I believe they've like experienced it as like a day. I don't know.
Oh yeah? Where can I find him? He's dead. So Odysseus and crew sail down to Hades. They do this wacky ghost
Where can I find him? He's dead. Oh.
summoning ritual, which ends up attracting a few us they weren't looking for. And then Tiresias shows up. He's like, what's up, Odysseus? Poseidon's determined to screw you over.
Just gathering a ghost party, I guess. I mean, if I was a ghost and someone was just casually summoning a ghost, I would also jump at the opportunity. I feel like it would be hecka cool to actually interact with a human being if I've been a ghost and just been, I guess, ghosting for that long. Like, you get no contact, probably. So of course you wanna get around.
But you all might make it back as long as you don't harm Helios's pet cows that can be found on Thrinacia. If you do, though, your entire crew will die and
That feels like foreshadowing.
you'll be home, like, super late. And Odysseus is like, cool, you heard the man, folks, no hurting the cows.
Super late, your wife won't like that.
Then Odysseus has a little touching reunion with the ghosts of all his now-dead Greek war buddies, like Agamemnon, very grumpy at being dead, Achilles and Patroclus, now hetero-death partners, and great Ajax. Then
Oh goodness.
Odysseus sails out of Hades and back to Aea, where Circe maps out
Wasn't Ajax like a kid?
the route back to Ithaca, which for some reason is extremely densely populated by monsters. So first, they find the island of the Sirens.
I love that she's just gonna be explaining it to him, like laying it out, like, hey, listen, here's the map. You first have to go here and then here. It's almost like a woman giving like a man a grocery store list, you know? It feels like that to me. Like, hey, this, and this.
Sirens, who sing so beautifully that anyone who hears them will be entranced, jump off the boat, and swim to their deaths. So the crew block their ears with beeswax and keep rowing, but Odysseus is really determined to hear their song, so he has them tie him to the mast so he can...
I kind of, and I don't know why, but this is like a weird urge I have. And now I'm debating actually doing it for like the Odyssey covering. I kind of want to try and put beeswax in my own ears just to see how well it works. And if it's comfortable or not. I don't know why, that's a weird thought I have. If you want to see me put beeswax in my ears, whenever we actually cover the Odyssey, let me know. Because maybe I'll try it. I don't know why, it's just... I feel like it's gonna be all sticky and ew and gross, but I'll think about it.
listen without doing anything stupid. The sirens are like... And Odysseus is like, release me, I must hear their dulcet tones up close. And his crew is like, what? So they get out of earshot of the sirens, only to encounter the monster.
The crew was like, what?
There's Scylla and Charybdis. So Scylla is one ugly piece of work. She's a six-headed monster.
She's beautiful to me. Scylla is beautiful to me. I love that woman. She might actually be one of my favorite characters. We covered her on PompyPie. I feel like she's one heck of a victim, but also she's still beautiful to me. I love her. I don't know, she's precious. Also, her voice in Epic the Musical is amazing. Anyways, I find it so weird. Here they did put like both the snake heads and then also the dog heads around her waist, because they have different iterations where she either has the snake serpent things or the dogs. I don't know why the dogs though.
They're at the top of a giant craggy cliff whose heads reach all the way down to the ocean to devour any unfortunates who happen to drift too close. Charybdis is like a combination garbage disposal and malfunctioning garbage disposal that's...
Listen, I don't know why, but whenever I see anything of Charybdis and it's just that giant mouth with teeth, I shiver. I cringe so hard. I don't know why. I can't handle it. If I had to pick between Scylla and Charybdis, I would pick Scylla any day. I can't deal with this.
Sucks in the ocean and then spits it back out again. So, as they're trying to find a way to sail between the two without running into either the cliff or Charybdis, Scylla eats 6 of his crew members. On the bright side, this means her mouths are full, so she can't eat any more of them. So Odysseus and crew take the opportunity to gun it between them.
Maybe Scylla is just like a very slow eater. I know that whenever I'm eating dinner with Chess, I'm very slow. Like I have to do double the time I take double the time he takes to actually eat his food and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. But like I'm just sitting there still like chewing my food and he's already done like getting his second plate and then he finishes the second plate before me. So I get why Scylla would take so long to just actually consume them and then they just get to sail away in the meantime.
They finally come across Thrinacia, more easily pronounced as the Island of the Sun, where, despite Odysseus' prophecy-based protests, they land and rest for the night. But then, Zeus strands them on the island for more than a month. At this point, the food Circe gave them starts to run out, and Eurylochus, a somewhat...
Why? Zeus, why? That's so random. Why? He just wanted them to harm the cows. He's like, I don't want you getting home. Because you actually have a good marriage and I don't. And I'm jealous. So you're not gonna get your ass home. I feel like Zeus is that spiteful. I feel like he would be like that.
Member, who's inexplicably survived everything up till this point, is like, hey, what if we sacrificed one of these lovely golden cows to the gods? We'd get to eat it and leave the island. And Odysseus is like, damn it, what did Tiresias say? And Eurylochus is like, oh wait, too late, I seem to have killed one. So when they finally...
I seem to have killed one. This one accidentally walked into my sword. It just happened. I don't know why. It's not my fault. Now I'm accidentally like frying and cooking him and actually spicing him up and taking a bite, but you know, it just happened. I had no control over it. It's so weird.
He set sail. Zeus hits the ship with lightning. The boat explodes, the entire crew dies, and Odysseus is left clinging
Thunderbringer
to a single timber from the boat, silently contemplating where everything went wrong. Then,
I just keep thinking, like, whenever someone is being struck by lightning, I just keep thinking toast. I don't know why. Like, during the recording of the PompyPie podcast about Scylla, whenever somebody also got caught by lightning, I was like, you'll just turn into a toasty. Oh no, I was joking because my friend said, like, I hate the gods. And I was like, you're gonna get struck down and you're gonna turn into some melted cheese sandwich. Like a grilled cheese. You'll be a grilled cheese. This is where Odysseus turned. Well, his crew turned into a lot of grilled cheeses. They could have just eaten those.
Adding insult to injury, Zeus sends a wind to blow Odysseus back to Charybdis, who eats the rest of the boat. A few hours later, when Charybdis puked...
That's so rough. You've chosen, you've paid the price with like Scylla, and then Zeus is just like, no, let me just fuck with you some more, you know? How about you go back to that giant mouth? I know you just sacrificed 6 men for nothing. I know I've made you already like stuck randomly on an island. What is Zeus's beef with this guy? Why? It's just a power play, I feel like. He's just spiteful. Zeus is just... he's just quirky like that.
Picks up the timber, Odysseus hops onto what's left of the boat and paddles the hell out of there. 9 days later, he washes up on the shore of Calypso's island, and the rest is questionably reliable history. So Odysseus finishes telling his story, and the king is like, dang, dude, want a boat? And Odysseus is like,
imagine someone walks in with your daughter, who your daughter just like randomly found in the woods. He's like, you wanna know how I got there? Full on trauma dumps, like an entire story. Just drops it on him. All of this hardship and everything he's gone through. The king is just sitting there like, how am I supposed to react to this? Do you want sympathy? Do I give you a hand? Like thinking, and then he's just like, hi, you want a boat? Kinda want you to leave. I am highly uncomfortable. And that just seems so...
yes, please. So the king gives him a ship and crew, along with a few tons of fine treasure, and Odysseus naps all the way...
I mean, what can you do? Of course you're gonna give the guy treasure. He's been through hell. You have to at that point.
back to Ithaca. And who can blame him? So that's the end, right? He's made it back to Ithaca, so that's it, right? Nope, we're barely halfway through this book. Come on, give the man a break! So Odysseus is finally home in Ithaca, but there's one small problem. The suitors are still making trouble all up in his backyard. But Athena, as always, has a plan. She magically disguises him as an old man, then goes off to Sparta to bring Telemachus home for the reunion. Odysseus, now disguised, goes off to talk to some loyal swineherd. Meanwhile, in Sparta, Athena's like, yo, Telemachus, get your butt home. So Telemachus sets sail for home, along with several gifts from Menelaus and Helen. Oh, and he's also joined by this dude, Theoclymenus, who's a prophet.
What was the purpose of Telemachus' journey? Did he literally just go somewhere just to get told, like, hey, he's on Calypso's island, and, like, get trauma dumped on by, like, a bunch of rich kings, and then get, like, Athena telling him, hey, your dad's on his way home, you might want to get your ass back. What? So that was all for nothing? He left his mom alone in the house with those horrible suitors for what? For solace. For nothing. Why?
And a fugitive from Argos. While Odysseus and the swineherd bond, Telemachus and Theoclymenus arrive at Ithaca, and knowing that the palace isn't necessarily safe for either of them, immediately...
Odysseus bonded with, like, the... Why did he bond with the suitors? He's like, yeah, you wanna fuck my wife? I wanna fuck my wife too. Yeah, she's pretty hot, ain't she? Mm-hmm. Oh, I would love to tap that ass just like you.
Head off to the friendly neighborhood swineherd's house. So Telemachus is like, swineherd, my man, how are things up at the castle? And the swineherd is like, oh, still pretty bad. And Telemachus is like, oh good, nothing's changed. And Odysseus is like, come on kid, man up. Why are you letting these suitors strut around your house as if they own the place? I mean, if I were, say, the king himself returned...
Oh, I thought He's at the swineherd's house, as in literally the guy with the swineherd. I interpreted it as if the person, like, narrating the story actually called the suitors a swineherd. And that's why I thought the swineherd house was actually the castle. Forget anything I said. Oops.
The king himself returned in secret from his travels. Why, I'd strut right in there and kill all of them. And Telemachus is like, yeah, you're right. It's just too bad you're not him. And then Athena's like, hey, Odysseus, I've decided you should reveal yourself to your son, and rips the illusion off of him. So Odysseus is like, hey, son, I'm home. And Telemachus is like, Dad! And it's all super heartwarming. Pause for a moment.
Why did he even try to pretend at that point? Athena just straight up exposed this man. That's so funny to me. Also, this is heartwarming. Look at Telemachus. He just wanted his dad.
To absorb the feels. So Odysseus and Telemachus start plotting their revenge on the suitors. Meanwhile, back in the castle, Penelope and the suitors, a good name for a band by the way, learn from the swineherd that Telemachus is back, and the suitors are like,
Penelope and the suitors. Reminds me of Marina and the Diamonds.
Damn it, our ambush has failed. Guess we better kill him right here before he can tell everyone that we tried to kill him. And Penelope is like, what?
I mean, to be honest, if you would have like a band existing of one woman with like a very beautiful high-pitched voice, and then all of these like more lower toned male voices in the back, that could be something. That sounds kind of cool.
How dare you plot to kill my son? And no, we didn't say that. And she's like, oh, okay. So the next day, Telemachus returns to the palace, while Odysseus, once again disguised as a beggar, goes into town. So Telemachus tells Penelope about his journey, although he leaves out the part about Odysseus, and his new prophet buddy, Theoclymenus, is like, the really weird thing is, I'm getting a sense that Odysseus is here in Ithaca. And Penelope's like, man, that's just ridiculous. Meanwhile, Odysseus and the swineherd head for the palace, where the disguised Odysseus is immediately—
Imagine a random, your son brings home like one of his friends, and he happens to be a prophet, and he's just like, listen, I have a feeling your husband, who's been gone for more than 10 years, 20 years, that he's actually here. Of course you'd be like, Telemachus, I don't know who you brought home here. Maybe you want to check your friends, but, you know, as long as you're happy, kid, I'll listen to his ramblings.
Where the disguised Odysseus is immediately recognized by his old dog, Argos. God, this story is so adorable. Then the dog dies. Why? So beggar Odysseus—
I hate that part. I love that the dog actually stayed alive long enough to see his owner come back. That's an old-ass dog. I wish my rats lived that long. But the fact that then immediately he dies because Odysseus is back and he can finally die in peace is so sad. I can't handle that.
Beggar Odysseus begs scraps of foods from the suitors, who generally oblige, except for this one guy who throws a stool at him. So the suitors get pretty boozed up and start talking smack to Odysseus.
What a random guy. That was Antinous. He had a feeling. The feeling was felt, and he felt that that was Odysseus. He has an Odie sense. Everybody's just feeding this guy food, and then one guy throws a seat at him. Maybe it was just saying like, hey, you can join us, mate. Come sit at our table. You know, here's your chair. Tosses it at him.
Odysseus, but then Telemachus is like, sleep it off, you drunks, and they all go to bed. Then Odysseus and Telemachus put their plan into motion. First, they hide all the suitors' armor and weapons upstairs. Then Odysseus goes to talk to Penelope, who he promises that before the end of the month, Odysseus will return. Hint. Hint. Penelope asks beggar Odysseus if he thinks she should remarry, and Odysseus is like, no, I'm sure your husband will be back real soon.
Look at that grin. She's like, should I remarry, huh? She knows. I feel like she'd know. Like, by looking at him, she'd know.
To murder all your suitors. Don't sweat it. And she's like, man, I don't know. Tell you what. Tomorrow, I'll hold a contest among the suitors and anyone else who wants to try. And only a man just like Odysseus will be able to win and become my husband. And Odysseus is like, that's a great plan. Do exactly that. So the next day, all the suitors assemble, still—
a man just like Odysseus. Or maybe Odysseus himself.
Trying to figure out how to discreetly murder Telemachus, when Penelope unveils her secret plan. So, some context.
Discreetly murder Telemachus. They have really outstayed their welcome here. This is awful.
Odysseus had this crazy strong recurve bow. It was a really cool bow, but it was a present and he never ever took it to war, so it was still locked up safely in the palace basement when he left for Troy. Now, this bow is ridiculously strong, but Odysseus never had any trouble dealing with it because, as mentioned previously, he's a badass. So Penelope's like, alright everyone, no more delays.
He's just min-maxed, basically.
I'll marry the man who can string this bow most easily, and then use it to shoot through these 12 axe heads. Now, this bow has a draw strength of something like 500 pounds, so none of the suitors can even bend the bow far enough to string it. And then beggar Odysseus is like, hey, just for kicks, can I have a look at that bow? And the suitors are like, sure.
Like I said, Odysseus is just built different. Like, so many people would literally die from all of the shit he's been pulled through by the gods. This man is still living. He's living his best life. We can't hold him down.
This is gonna be good. And then, of course, Odysseus strings the bow easily. Then he casually shoots an arrow through all 12 axes, and then it's murdering time. Odysseus reveals himself in all his glory, the suitors start panicking,
Power move, honestly.
and Odysseus and Telemachus engage in some healthy father-son bonding by killing nearly all of them, after wreaking bloody vengeance on his enemies, and then after a nice long
Wasn't he nude while he killed the suitors so they couldn't hear him when they tried navigating?
bath, Odysseus is finally reunited with Penelope. Then Athena persuades the entire rest of Ithaca not to take vengeance on Odysseus for killing the entire noble population, and they all lived happily ever after.
Oh god, my drawing. I can imagine. This is great, to be honest. This is actually really great. I am excited about the next one. I'm enjoying this. Overly sarcastic production, you can get it.
I wonder when the happy ending was invented. The fairy tale trope, you weirdos. It has this appealing vagueness to it that lets us just believe our heroes ride off into the sunset and experience some sort of idyllic just reward for all their troubles, nice and off screen, so we can't see any details that might spoil the illusion. It just feels—
This reminds me, like the lettering, I don't know if you can properly see it, but it's all those dots. It reminds me of when you have to do those colorblind tests and you get to see all the different colored dots. Also, I remember when growing up, I had this fascination. I was like, why do all the stories always have to get a happy ending? Why can't there be fairy tales with bad endings? And then at some point we actually had like a writing contest for school, and I actually made a book with a bad ending, like a terrible ending. And even now still I'm like obsessed with tragic characters who possibly can't even get a good ending and stuff like that, because it fascinates me. But that already was there since like a young age. So I was like, yeah, when did the happy ending get invented? I tried to de-invent it, I guess.
like every time I unpack an ancient myth, we get a good hard look at the protagonist's entire life, from their storybook acts of great heroism down to their inevitable horrifying tragic end, frequently due to their own shitty behavior during those aforementioned acts of heroism. Sure, some of them get deified in the process, but that's kinda
I always missed the humanness in a good ending at times, because I was like, listen, not everybody gets a good ending. Sometimes there's bad endings, and that's okay. You know, we're humans, we're complex, we have all of these different things that make us human, these different emotions we can handle, we can have different perspective on things. Not everything is good, and that fascinated me. I think that's why I liked bad endings. Which is weird.
Cold comfort. Then again, I guess it's more realistic than nebulous retirement ever after. Greek heroes live interesting lives, and that, quite frankly, never ends well. One of the greats that I've managed to overlook so far is Cadmus, founder hero of Thebes and frequent co-star in the family trees of a truly impressive number of characters we've talked about before. This version of his story comes to us in Ovid's Metamorphoses, and I cannot wait to hear about how his life goes horribly wrong thanks to the unjust capriciousness of the gods. Ovid doesn't have a brand, what are you talking about? Our story begins at the end of another one.
I can't wait to hear how his life goes horribly wrong. I love that.
As we briefly touched on in the Zodiac video, Phoenician Princess Europa has had the unfortunate but tragically common experience of being abducted by Zeus, cunningly disguised as a bull, who carries her across the ocean to the shores of Crete and emplaces her as its first queen. But in a shocking exploration of the canonically acknowledged shittiness of Zeus's actions, she leaves behind a confused and grieving family, notably a father who demands that she must be found. He sends Europa's brother Cadmus in search of her and raises the stakes by demanding that Cadmus return with his sister or not at all. Unfortunately, due to the aforementioned godly abduction, not at all is going to be his own.
There's some preference there. If you already lost one kid, why send the other one with the message like, bring her back or you don't get to return at all? Maybe at this point the guy's like, listen, I don't even want to have kids anymore.
The option. Cadmus seeks out the Oracle at Delphi and asks for her help, and she tells him that his main quest line is softlock, but what he's gonna do instead is he's gonna find this magic cow, right, and follow it across the land until it decides to lie down, and there he's gonna establish a great kingdom and name it Boeotia. Cadmus heads out and immediately finds a beautiful and clearly magical cow and does as the Oracle commands, following it on a
clearly magical cow. I always like to imagine how they figure this stuff out. Like, how do you look at a cow and you just know it's magical? I just picture like a cow holding like a wand and making magic spells. And they're glittery.
very long journey until it settles down for a rest in a lush, empty stretch of land ripe for the colonizing. Cadmus sends his followers out to find a source of fresh water so he can make some sacrifices to the gods. Followers who have of course been here the whole time because of how profoundly important they are to the story, with long and successful...
The real destiny was the friendships we forged. The real destiny were the friendships we formed along the way.
Successful careers ahead of him, just down this river and inside this spooky cave. When the sun starts setting and Cadmus's guys aren't back yet, he goes to investigate and finds that, horror of horrors, those followers of his have been slaughtered to a man, and they were so important. The cause of their death quickly becomes clear, as emerging from the spooky cave is a giant venomous dragon.
I love that they're just being used as plot points. It's always the crew is just being used as plot points. They're still important. They all die. But they're still important. They're just extra trauma, extra hardship.
Ready to fight. What follows is a battle of epic proportions where Cadmus uses such cunning strategies as throwing a rock at...
Why would that be the perfect place to indeed, like, make a city then? If there's a giant dragon in the mountain, that does not sound safe. That's not gonna pass any safety laws, I believe.
At it and stabbing it real good. After a cataclysmic duel, Cadmus successfully slays the dragon and takes a moment to bask in his victory, which is when a spooky voice rings out and tells him if he thinks slaying dragons is funny, his future is about to be hilarious. Before he really has time to mull that one over, Athena pops into the story and tells him he needs manpower thanks to the aforementioned tragic and horrible death of all his followers, so he'd better...
I feel like Athena is just continuously picking up all of the people that are just being hunted by the other gods. She's like, okay, this is just sad, people. Maybe we shouldn't be doing these power plays. Let me help you out, kid.
Get busy taking that dragon's teeth and sowing them like seeds. Cadmus obeys because when Athena tells you to do a thing, you do it, and the dragon's teeth sprout into a veritable army of warriors, fully decked out and ready to fight. And fight they do. Immediately. Each other. The army of draconic warriors just straight up start throwing hands, setting some sort of speedrun record for fastest time between birth and first murder that has been matched except by certain species of parasitic wasp. But as quickly as the battle has begun...
Why? Why? Also, I feel like it can be faster because some people just burst out of bodies, like that parasitic wasp. But also there's other species. I think they grow inside other people, like kill off the host. But why? Why just start killing each other?
It's over, with 5 warriors remaining with the wherewithal to notice that, hey, wait a second, this entire fight is pointless. So they stop.
Yeah, why did y'all start? Why did they randomly start fighting each other? They just started spawn killing each other. Why?
Pledge allegiance to a probably mildly scarred Cadmus and set about building that great city of his. And then we skip forward in time through Cadmus's marriage to Harmonia, the daughter of Aphrodite and Ares, and they start a family.
Look how cute! At least his parents-in-law seem to like him.
Together, which handily segues into a quick montage of all of Cadmus's descendants who died horrible, painful deaths because Hera is still mad about the Europa thing. Big names like his grandson Actaeon and his daughter Semele with a...
Dude, that's not even hurting Europa. That's just... That's her brother. And you're hurting his offspring. Hera, please. Why? She can really hold a grudge that long. I'm impressed. You know? Damn.
Special detour into a fun new story where Cadmus's daughter Ino and her husband Athamas are attacked by the Fury Tisiphone and driven mad by magical venomous snakes, causing Athamas to kill one of their infant sons and drive Ino and their surviving child to leap into the sea to escape him. But thanks to it,
you know, you could always hire Odysseus to just throw your infant off the riff. You know, he'd gladly do it. He's experienced as well. Got a great track record.
Special act of divine nepotism courtesy of Aphrodite, Poseidon transforms Ino and her son into ocean gods with fun new names and everything. No harm done, all's well that ends well, good thing they had that spare kid lying around. But of course Cadmus has no way of knowing about that last part, so from his perspective, his children and grandchildren have just been suffering horrible fates non-stop with no reprieve. He wonders if it might be because that dragon he killed was more—
I love that Aphrodite stepped in there to actually help her grandkids and stuff. But that's so sad for Cadmus. That's so sad.
Than just a monster. What if it was sacred to the gods, and by killing it, he angered them somehow? He says, hypothetically, if that were the case, it would be better if the gods just bit the bullet and turned him into a dragon. And somebody's clearly listening, because they oblige. Cadmus begins transforming into a big old monster.
What? Dear, don't take this the wrong way, but your family's communication skills are pretty terrible. Why?
Snake feet first and slow enough that he knows exactly what's going on and that he can't stop it. Which is, yeah, horrifying. But in fairness, what are the gods gonna do? Smite me? Is probably the most blatant tempting of fate I've ever seen from a Greek hero since Jason's pro strat.
That's why whenever Panda was actually like, what? I hate the gods. I was like, don't say that. Don't say it. You know? Otherwise we won't be able to host this any longer. You'll be smite.
Of what's my turbo-powerful sorceress ex gonna do? Murder my new wife? But as Cadmus becomes all snake all the time, his wife Harmonia grabs hold of him and double dares the gods that she bets they can't do it twice. So she also turns into a big snake, panicking all of their royal attendants, but these two dragons are very...
Oh, that's actually so cute. Hey mom, bet you can't do it twice. That's so sweet actually. That she just like turned into a dragon just because she wants to join him. Look how cute they look together. This is adorable, actually, kinda.
Different from the one Cadmus slew back in the day, because they still remember who they are, and leave the palace with all the grace of royalty to spend the rest of their days in the wilderness together. Which, frankly, is probably the closest thing to happily ever after a Greek hero can get.
Look at their little tails, like, intertwined. This is actually kind of romantic. If my boyfriend would be turned into a dragon, I'd do the same thing. I would. I promise. He who fights with dragons might take care lest he thereby get turned into a dragon, because the gods can't just put up a sign that says, important sacred creature, do not murder. Fair. Who even was the dragon? Does the dragon have a backstory? Who was he? What was the dragon? Why was the dragon? I'm confused. You know what? No, we'll actually leave it at those 2 bits. Because I have to get my ass to school. Well, that was it for today. I really enjoyed watching Overly Sarcastic Productions. Like, really enjoyed watching Overly Sarcastic Productions. I do not have the time for, like, the last bit. I am so sorry. I have to get my ass to school. But that's okay. We'll get to it later. If you have any more videos you would like me to react to, I would be happy to. Leave them in the comments below. If you have any specific videos from Overly Sarcastic Productions you would like me to react to, please let me know. I really enjoyed this. Go get yourself another drink and another snack. Because you deserve it. Take care of yourself. Because you're amazing and you deserve it. Just gonna keep repeating that. Until you believe it. Self-love, you know? Anyways, I hope you have an amazing day. Like I said, please like and subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me. That's it, I think. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!